I'm gonna start right into this by saying this is not what I expected whatsoever. I thought this would be about the size of a master grade and kinda like Bandai's metal build figures. No, it is not. It is absolutely and utterly huge. Way bigger than I expected it to be. Kinda like the Mosho metal build figures. That big. The quality is off the charts, it's got a ridiculous amount of stuff, it's got massive wings of light, and I knew it transformed into a giant white phoenix, but I didn't expect how big that phoenix would be. That's a master grade up on its back. This thing is colossal, this thing is awesome, and if you want one of your own, I got this through Rise of Gunpla, link in the description, and you can use the code MECHA5. Now let's check it out. So starting right into the aesthetics, and this thing is blowing my mind with how big it is, so I had to start with the size comparison first. So using the usual metrics we'd use on here, there is a high grade Gundam, and there is a master grade. I actually assumed this would be master grade size, but as you can see, it is not. This thing's big, really big. So sliding a perfect grade on in there, you can just see how massive this thing actually is. It's almost the size of a perfect grade, and that is not what I expected. Now, sure, this is a lot sleeker, so there isn't as much mass as the RX-78-2 here, but still impressive. I'm actually a little bit disappointed that I have to pack away most things after I do a review. I don't have the space for them at the moment, but I'd love to see what size this is beside the Date that I was taking a look at recently, because it must be in and around almost the same size. I am impressed. Moving on. So now moving into that full 360 spin, and before I say anything else I will mention, I was shocked by two things about this. First off, the size, it's way more colossal than I expected, but the other aspect is, this thing is legit sharp. I mean, be careful level sharp. It's really, really pointy, and I've poked myself almost to the point of breaking skin multiple times, so if you're getting one of these, be careful. It is sharp. Besides that though, this is ridiculously nice looking. It's got panel lines, it's got fantastic paintwork. I can't see any kind of like typical action figure flubs anywhere, like nub marks or bad paint applications or anything like that. We've got a little bit of a jewel in the belt segment, which catches the light perfectly. The paintwork is insane. We've got an, well, gloss, almost pearlescent looking white on this. Could be pearlescent. A nice matte black, metallic red, metallic gold, and nice light gray. This has so many different colors and different finishes on a lot of those colors. Oh, also I will mention as well, just like we're seeing right here on the box, this does have a full metal inner frame too, so this is a hefty, rock solid beast right here. When you get this in the hand, it is absolutely weighty. Like I mentioned, it is huge, and honestly, this thing, when you get it up on the shelf, has a ridiculous level of shelf presence. Like, usually I throw all my kits or display up on this IKEA Kallax right here, and I'm not sure what size these particular squares are. I'm going to say they're a foot by a foot, 12 inches by 12 inches. This thing nearly fills the entire square, and it's rare that anything that I've added to my collection does that. So this is an eye catcher without a doubt, and it doesn't even have the effect wings on or the action base yet, so we might as well blast on through it and get into the accessories. So now jumping into the accessories, and usually I lay out absolutely everything that comes with the figure or kit before actually looking at it all, but this comes with so much that would take me forever. We've got 4 layers of accessories inside this box, so let's just take them one at a time. So jumping into the hands, and we've got 6 in total. That is 3 pairs of different holding hands, some at different angles, and some for holding different weapons. When we actually go to the hands that were already attached to the figure when we got it out of the box, these are 100% fully articulated, well, essentially like a real hand. You've got a joint at absolutely every joint a hand would have, and that means you can pull off any pose you could ever want, from funny to absolutely and utterly super dynamic. This is quite cool. So at this point I'm going to mention something I meant to mention during the aesthetics that I totally forgot. So when I was assembling this, I could not get these wings in at all. Now I didn't want to modify this figure for the review, but these are a super tight fit. I can get them to rotate, they hold on fine, but they just won't push in all the way. I've tried and tried again, so I'm going to have to file maybe the inside of the holes these attach into in order to get them all the way in. So next up in here we do have a full stand, which is absolutely and utterly incredible looking. It's got a tri-hexagonal design, a lot of nice detail on it. The stand is your usual kind of stand you see with these kind of figures. You pop it in like so. We've got a main stand and a supplementary small one, and all the little bits that allow you to adjust it to your liking. That's one to adjust the angle, one to adjust the length, and then the angle up top for where the mecha will attach on. Now I will mention, the attachment point up top as well as the locking mechanism for it are both made out of metal, which I really do appreciate. Considering this is a very hefty, heavy figure, it will need a really good connection point with a really good mechanism. I've broken these sort of mechanisms on figures multiple times before, so this is nice. So in order to attach this onto the action base, we've got an adapter for both modes. For the mecha mode, we've got this kind of cradle, which allows the mecha itself to actually just rest in via its backpack. It attaches onto the two metal pins that are attaching the wings on like so, and this rests into that very, very nicely. We do have a second one then for using with the transformed form, but we'll take a look at that later. And I will also mention that I did just notice that this segment of the action base, which allows this to move up and down, is actually the head of a dragon, and this moves out from the mouth like so. How cool is that? So now jumping into the weapons, and the first of the weapons we have is this absolutely massive sword. Now this is painted in a whole bunch of colors, everything is a paint of sorts, and we've got metallic green, what looks to be jewels at the end. The blade is in the exact same metallic gold as we saw on the rest of the mecha so far. And down on the guard, we've got blue, some metallic red, and some great detailing all around. That is a nice sword. So the instructions you get with this kit for how to attach things aren't the clearest. So in order to attach the sword, you have to pop the pommel off the end and then just slide it on into the hand. We've got multiple choices of hands, so I'm going to go with the one with the slashing angle. So I will mention, getting the default hands off, the ones with the fingers, was a bit of a grueling task, and it didn't sound great. It sounded like this. However, when it came to attaching on one of the alternate hands, it slipped right in perfectly. It did seem like we had a little bit of a dropping issue though, but what actually that turned out to be is part of the transformation mechanism round back, this little claw segment here. So it's actually raising up, not dropping down that's going on. So you won't have any issues with this unless you're in some kind of inverted upside down pose. So anyway, there it is up on the action base with the sword attached, everything rock solid, looking great, and this thing can kill a pose so far. On to the next accessory. So the next piece of equipment we have in here is the shield, once again painted in matching colors to the mecha itself, looking phenomenal, and it is actually deceptively simple. Believe it or not, this is essentially just one piece of plastic. Maybe there's two actually, this might be a secondary part, but it is just all paint. And so much has really been done with so little. This is so well painted, this looks phenomenal. Round back we do have this rotating segment right here for attaching it. As for attaching on the shield, you just go around to the back of the arm, flip down one of the toes on the claw segments around back of the arm, and then it should just attach on in just like so. Super simple, but effective. This holds on perfectly, that's what it looks like in a pose, and that's not going to get in the way because it can rotate, and it's definitely not going to fall off. So if one sword just wasn't enough, we also have a pair of these absolutely shining silver swords. Just look at the way those catch the light. So this is metallic, what I can only describe as an aluminium with a kind of brushed finish and a nice ruby metallic red, which is glossy. Pretty cool. So this right here is exactly the same as before. Pop off, whoop, not that. The pommel down here. Slide that down then into the hand of your choice. And once again, attaching that is exactly the same as we would have seen with the other sword. So that right there is what one of these looks like attached. I will mention there's so much you can do with these weapons, which are referred to in the instructions as the double-ended guns. Well, we don't have one, we've got two, and that means you can either have them dual-wielded or you can make them into a double-ended gun, or should I say glaive. And to do that, you've got this double handle here. You just pop the top off both of the blades, pop them onto both ends of this particular handle, and then you just pop them into the hand in the exact same way for this absolutely giant, shining silver glaive. This is a figure with a whole lot of swords, and that just looks plain badass. So next up in here, when it comes to the accessories, we've got those absolutely huge wings of light. These look incredible. They're almost both look like vigorous energy while at the same time looking kind of crystalline. These are ridiculously cool with a nice fade from blue into purple. Attaching them is super simple. You slot the smaller one into the bottom wing, followed by the larger one into the upper wing, and this is what you get. This looks absolutely incredible. This has gone from a huge display to a ridiculously massive display. I mean, I can't believe I thought this was the size of a Master Grade Gundam. So grabbing that Master Grade Gundam from earlier on, that's the RX-78 2 3.0, plopping it down beside this absolute beast, and just check out the comparison there. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. This won't fit in that IKEA Kallax anymore. Not a chance. So there's so many accessories in here, I almost forgot this one. This is the tail feathers. Now, I took this out of the box when I was actually putting this together, assuming you just attach it in because it's in every image of this particular figure. But it turns out we actually have a thruster in there already when you attach on the backpack the way it comes out of the box, so I didn't attach that on at the beginning. So this is quite incredible. To attach it first, you do need to pull out the thruster that is in there, and this replaces that. However, it does seem to clash ever so slightly with the stand adapter. It doesn't seem to attach on while that's on, and when you do put it back into the cradle, it sort of bends the cradle ever so slightly, like it does not fit. But this does have some of the coolest articulation I have ever seen. Now, this is similar to something you'd see on some kinds of mic stands, or the kind of stands that are attached to some portable tripods or pop screens or something like that. This is just so nice. This gives you an unprecedented level of articulation and strength that I have never seen before. This is pretty damn cool. Also, I will mention that this particular kit does have LED functionality. You do need 3 AG4 batteries in which to make this work. We've got the area to stick them in underneath the neck like so, pop them all in. We've a switch round back, and I will mention that this figure has some serious light bleed in the neck. Now, I'm not sure if this is meant to be here. To me, it looks like it isn't, honestly. I'm assuming just the eyes and the top of the head are meant to light up, but this, woo, that's some bad bleed. Anyway, with the head attached, that is what it will look like, and once again, it's hard not to notice the fact that the entire neck is glowing. I don't know if this is meant to be the case, but to me, not the greatest LED functionality I've ever seen in a mecha action figure. So we also do have some storage options on the backpack too, so if you just pop out this red segment right here, we've got a little bit of a port. We've got this little bit of a rig segment right here, which has some articulation up there, a pair of hinges, and as you can see, we do have some grabby bits attached onto this. This just then attaches into that little socket in the backpack just like so. Then you can just grab the weapons that we've seen so far, which is the 3 swords, and they can attach into all of these grabby little segments just like so. So if you want to store the swords round back, you can do exactly that. Extremely, extremely handy. Anyway, this is off because I want to test out the articulation, so here we go. So now jumping into the articulation, I have to say this thing right here is rock solid. This won't drop at all. No pose will ever fall out of this absolute beast right here. I will mention once again, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, this has a full metal frame and it feels like it. So the neck articulation here is a combination of a ball joint up top and a hinge down below. So the articulation is quite good and will get you pretty much any kind of pose you want. It hasn't failed me yet. We've got an impressive shoulder joint which moves out to the front as well as out to the back like this. This gives you everything you would need and more. On top of that then, we've got the full 360 spin all the way around. The shoulder armor can move ever so slightly independently to the arm. For the most part, it's mounted to it, but it can move independently a bit. We do have some moving armor parts as well. Full 360 spin all the way around at the upper arm. We've got an impressive elbow bend right here, goes all the way. There's a lot of movement to the claws back here, which is part of the transformation. Also allows the hand to move its angle ever so slightly. The hand, just like we've seen, has all the articulation a hand could ever need. That's every single digit, can flex like this. I do find that rear part of the hand does block sometimes, but you can work around that. So I'm not sure if this is it for the ab crunch, but it feels like it, just moving back as far as there and forward to there. Besides that, we do have rotation. That is extremely stiff, but does feel like that'll go all the way around and is already starting to loosen up ever so slightly. A little bit then of a side-to-side crunch right here. Front skirting armor is double jointed, so it can move out like so, as well as the usual up and down. The whole crotch armor unit can pull out like so and pretty much get entirely out of the way. I assume to some degree that is part of the transformation, but it's undeniably handy. The side skirting armor for the most part is on a ball joint, so it does what a ball joint does, but we do have another joint in here that so far I haven't gotten anything out of. Oh, it feels like it's part of this whole shindig right here. Yeah, seems to be. Kind of moves it forward and back on a hinge there, bringing it out to the front. Around the back then, a double premium butt flap and a similar drop and moving mechanism to what we would have seen over on the front, so that is definitely impressive right there. So as for the kicks, it's hard to keep this in frame, it's so big. There is all we get all the way to the front, so not too bad. Nearly too parallel to the ground. There it is out to the back. We get even more out to the back than we do to the front because it's mildly blocked by the front skirting armor. And as for the splits, this seems like and feels like and is definitely pulling them off without a hitch. Full spin then at the upper leg. That right there is the bend at the knee. Ooh, that is nice. We've got this little bit of armor right here that likes to hang out on its own, has its own articulation. One more time, there it is, back into position. Some more cool detailed armor flaps back here. That's two of them there. This little thruster bit can move. When it comes to the foot then, there we are all the way out to the back. So very nice. There we are all the way to the front. We do have a bend at the toe. That is really cool. And those are some real Barbatos looking toes. And finally then the side-to-side pivot is one of the stiffest things I've ever felt. But there's side to side. And that's not bad at all. Also, we do have a little bit of pivot to the armor right here. So finally firing it into that usual pose, and the only limitations I find with this particular figure are the ab crunch could be a little deeper and the hip joint could allow the legs to move up a little more, so it could go down deeper into the lunge a little bit more dynamically. But on the whole, this is rock solid, looks fantastic, feels fantastic, and honestly, this doesn't even have its wings on up in the air, so definitely some nice articulation right here. So finally onto the transformation, and first off, here's what it looks like finished. It actually looks quite good. It is huge. It must have a wingspan at least 2.5 feet, maybe 3. This thing is massive. There's a master grade in its back, so you can see. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire transformation of this because I am wrecked tired and it took a while. So basically the gist of it is you twist the top of the body round, flip the legs into the wings, you add some attachment parts onto the backs of the legs, which now are adapters for the wings, and you put the big effects from the back wings onto the front. The small effects are still round back. The backpack gets flipped, and probably the funniest aspect of when this is actually finished is the Phoenix head that you stick onto it sticks into the bottom of the crotch. So that means around the back of the Phoenix, where the Phoenix's butt is, now it has a Gundam looking head sticking out of it, like it's laying a Gundam egg. Yeah, that is it. So that's it for the review. And what can I say? I am thoroughly impressed by this. This, you know, I expected it to be the size of a master grade and just be a kind of metal build style figure. But it is huge. It is definitely a metal build style figure. Ridiculous quality, has an over-the-top transformation that actually works, and it has a lot of wild and unusual aspects to it I've never seen before, including the absolutely phenomenal articulation round on the tails. I say if you can get yourself one of these, really like the design of one of them or multiple of them, go for it. There's a Lu Bu coming out, if it hasn't come out already, that has a giant horse, and considering how big these are, that horse has to be colossal. I mean, huge. Anyway, I need to go to bed. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Rise of Gunpla for sending this on to me, and as always, I'll see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lawrence Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.